All right, we're going to call to order the July 16, 2018 Committee of the Whole. Mr. Stiles will be here in just a minute, asking to get started. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting?
I move to adopt the agenda and approve the minutes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Garrett and a second from Ms. Coates to adopt the agenda and approve the minutes. And we have a question from Reverend Collins.
In the future, can we start approving the minutes that pertain to the meeting that we're in? If it's a board meeting, we approve those minutes during board meeting time, and if the committee of the whole meeting, we can approve those minutes at the committee of the whole or the board meeting.
Right, so these are just the minutes of the Committee of the Whole from June 11th.
It says board meeting,
Nope.
June 25th.
Nope, you're looking at the wrong agenda.
On the wrong agenda?
Yep.
July 16th?
July 16th, Committee of the Whole.
You're looking at the board meeting agenda, not the agenda for the
This
committee of the
one
whole
was
meeting.
delivered to me.
They were both.
You should have two, one for the Committee of the Whole and one for
So
the,
to answer the question, yes, that is how we do it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
okay. Mr. Hollenshed, how do you vote?
All right.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Reverend Collins?
Yes.
I vote yes. And Mr. Miller? Okay, motion passes to approve the minutes, and just clarify, we are approving just Committee of the Whole minutes at Committee of the Whole and board at board minutes. Do you have your Committee of the Whole agenda, Reverend Collins? Okay, great. I'm going to do a lot of Okay, everybody got it? All right, do we have anybody here, any visitors or anybody here for public comments? Anybody here who wants just for the heck of it talk to us? Well, thank you for visitors for being here. And thank
Calvin
you.
Williams.
Melvin Williams, come to the front.
All right, so our first item is Priscilla is still out of town. She's in Africa. She comes back at the beginning of August. So our first item is the established date for 17-18 year-end board goals. So Dr. Postlewaite, do you want to talk about that? Or
I'm happy to do that. We are going to ask you to hold a session on July 23rd to do that, and also to receive the Clemson Diversity and Inclusion Report. But we were contacted late last week by Lee Gill to say one of the key members of their team now will not be able to be here on July 23rd. So we would like to pull this item from the agenda, bring it back when the Clemson Diversity and Inclusion Report is ready, so that we're not asking you to run in here to do goals one night and the Clemson Diversity study the next night, or 1 week and then the next week. So if that's okay with everyone?
Ms. Coates?
Yeah, I understand completely, but I don't want to go too much further towards August without getting some student achievement data. So if the diversity group is not ready by about August, I would be willing to have two separate meetings, but I think it's time that we got some achievement data, and that was a lot of the goals for 17-18.
That's absolutely right. But we're happy to do it on the 23rd if you'd like. We're just trying to be thoughtful of board members with summer schedules, and it's frankly a little challenging to work around some of your schedules, particularly in the summer. But point well taken, and we can look at the end of July or first week of August if that works.
Yep. Why don't you, if you can, get with Lee and see what they can do the first week of August. I think Priscilla will be back. I'm not sure about Chris.
What day?
You're running this.
What day? Come over here.
First week of August.
First week of
I won't be here.
when are you back?
I'll be back on the 13th, 12th, and 14th.
Okay. All right. So let's look at what our options are, and then we can communicate that to the board and come up with a date.
Would the board be willing, we're here on the 26th, we could make if Dr. Gill's team is,
How about we poll the board and see how many can attend that
Okay.
training session on the 26th.
okay.
And see if that works for Lee. Okay.
So these goals, it says 2017, 2018, in year end. So for the year we're in now, that would be
Right. These are the goals that we've already reported on twice, and this would be the year-end report.
For
We've
the last
given you-
school year.
Right, right.
For the past school year. We've reported on them
So
twice.
this will be an update or presenting information?
It's the update plus the achievement data that we have available for you.
Okay, for the current year?
For the last
Just
school
finished.
year,
Yeah, for June.
for what the
Yeah.
kids just finished, yes.
I guess,
I know summer's always hard, just trying to figure out, is it the last school year, the next school
yeah,
year, this school
Most of
year?
the date, I'm trying to figure out, because goals are already established. So-
Right, these were the 17, 18 goals, that's the
So
school
we're
year that
trying
just
to
ended.
be back those goals or not?
Right.
That's what they're gonna tell. They've already
Well, they met the
updated this
goals now.
twice, and we're gonna talk about where we are with those goals. Yeah,
All right.
okay?
July 23rd?
Well, we were talking about, the Lee Guild group can't do the 23rd, so Dree's gonna check and see if they can do the 26th. We have board docs training on the 26th, so all of us should be here for that unless somebody's out of town. So we'll poll the board via email and see what date works for everybody. But between now and the, beginning of August. Okay, and then the next thing on the agenda is the Jack Kent Cook Foundation. And some folks come to talk to us about that.
Is it possible to send that data out before that meeting if we have it on the 26th?
Yeah, Judy, can we do that? Thanks. Yep.
That way it won't be my first time seeing it.
Yeah.
So we have really two things to come tell you about today that are huge celebrations for the district, and they relate to equity and access issues, which are priorities, of course, for us in the strategic plan. The first is some work with the Jack Kent Cook Foundation. This is a major foundation in this country, and Jack Kent Cook, perhaps I'm a Redskin fan, so he's the
We're gonna
former
let you keep that to yourself.
deceased owner of the Redskins. So upon his death, there was established a foundation to do work with education, specifically to try to help students reach their full potential. That's really what the foundation is about. As you can see on this second page here, they typically award student scholarships, $175 million to this point, and then they also have grants of $97 million that's been awarded in grants. And some more detail there about why they exist and the work that they do. How this connects to Charleston County are two things. First of all, Academic Magnet High School wrote a grant application, and they are going to be awarded they have been awarded a $100,000 grant by the foundation to do some equity and access work within the school. Now, Ms. Spencer's not here, principal's not here today, but we'll invite her back to come tell you some more specifics. Judith Peterson is here if you have some questions, or she can tell you a little bit more about specifically what that grant will do at the Magnet. So, want to share a little bit about that?
I certainly can. The grant really has 5 components. The first piece of it is to engage Charleston County School District, the community, parents, and students of low income but high ability students. We have identified 34 students in grades 7 and 8. They have a range of 44% of them are white, 35% of them African American, and the remainders are Hispanic and Asian. And so it represents pretty well the composition of the district. Our first goal will be to get people together and think positively about this grant. The second piece of it is quarterly meetings with the students and their parents to develop a community spirit, of team building, of academic familiarity, and there will be several field experiences that go along with that. There will be a peer mentoring component where students from Academic Magnet High School will pair up with these potential students. There's an adult mentoring piece where we will ask members of the community. I have already reached out to recent graduates of Magnet who are working here in Charleston to help us with this piece. And the mentors will work with the students and help the students and the parents complete the application for admission to Academic Magnet High School. And then the fifth component is support for the students once they are there at Academic Magnet High School. And that piece involves tutoring, study groups, peer mentoring, the Summer Scholars Institute, and scholarships for participation in grade level field trips and field experiences. It's not unlike those of you who are familiar with Upward Bound, Gear Up, the college program called Posse. It's taken elements of all of these very successful programs, melded them together, wrote the grant, and the Jack Kent Cook Foundation said, we believe in you. And so we're excited to make sure that their belief in us has been well-founded.
I have a question as well.
Reverend Collins has a question?
So Ms. Peterson,
Yes, sir.
you said 34 students?
34 students, yes.
So-
They qualify under the Cook's
Right.
expectations for high ability and low income.
But these are not students enrolled in your school, right?
They're what?
These are not students that are enrolled.
7th and 8th graders.
7th and 8th graders.
Where are they coming from?
They're coming from
And
31 middle schools.
And what is the process to identify the kids?
They were identified as gifted and talented under the county's gifted and talented criteria and the free and reduced lunch.
So it was only 34?
Yeah. So what-
But only 34?
34, yes.
That's countywide, I mean, if I'm asking, it's countywide or few selected schools?
That's countywide.
13 middle schools.
Countywide.
County middle schools.
So if they go through this program, does that get them a seat in your school, or what's the end result of the program? What's the end result? What does it do for the student if they complete the program you're putting them into?
The goal is to get them understanding what Academic Magnet High School has to offer, making them familiar with the school, the application process, and strengthening them academically and as a group of students that want to be able to come there as a group and feel like they're real comfortable because they've been working together for a year and they feel good about going on as a group to Magnet.
So what I'm asking is, does that give them a seat in Academic Magnet High School?
They have to apply.
So it still goes through the same process everyone else goes through?
Yeah.
Process, yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Cook?
So is it a $100,000 grant one-time disbursement, or are you talking 2 years of disbursement?
It's a 2-year grant, and it's a matching grant. Charleston County School District has committed to matching that with with services from the school district personnel, with services from teachers and buses and things like that.
So your first disbursement will be for the 18-19 school year, and they're going to disperse $50,000.
Yes, we have in CCSD the full $100,000 that we will spend it over the 2 years, and we've submitted the budget for those expenditures over the next 2 years.
And your matching had to be in-kind only, or?
In kind, pretty much, yes.
So then, just so we can kind of, this is something that we're not going to know whether it really had the impact we wanted until the 2021 school year starts, and that's when the 7th graders will be 9th graders entering Academic Magnet High School.
There are 20 of them are 7th graders and 14 of them are 8th graders, so the larger impact will be the 2021, but there will be an impact for 1920.
Right. So specifically, you talked about field experiences and peer mentoring. Have these students been, I guess I'm just trying to get the logistics of it. Have they been told they've been identified as potential candidates to apply to Academic
Not
Magnet?
yet, no,
You've identified the students, but you haven't contacted them?
no. And
And then-
that's all part of the initial engagement piece, which will take place in August and September.
And so then you're going to put together this coalition of kids and then spend the next 2 years doing very specific things to not only foster their, obviously because you said they had to meet the Cook Foundation criteria for gifted and talented, but foster their desire to attend Academic Magnet. Does this supplant or complement the top 2 8th grader program? Because I would hate to see them be swept up in the 35.
I think they're going to be, I'm hoping that it would complement and that it would extend then the number of CCSD students in the freshman class.
Precisely, because we have, Michael, how many middle schools did you just say?
13.
So we have 26 kids in the number 1 and number 2 in those schools. It's the first and second ranking. And then the 35, now you're starting to put together a nice number. Have y'all thought about that in your identification to make sure that the 35 you've identified don't include the first and second ranking of last year? Because
We've not done that cross-reference. This list came out of
But we need to, though.
It really can't because they were the 6th and 7th graders last year.
right.
I got you.
But I guess what I'd like to do is get a follow-up when this starts.
Yes.
That clearly identifies, because we're not talking about 35, we're talking about 50 or so if we do these things concurrently. So we'd like to see that we don't need the names, but we certainly need to know they've been identified and how it affects the number 1 and 2 rankings.
When Ms. Spencer is able to come back and present, because she's out of the country, she'll probably be able to bring that information.
Thank you.
Kelly? So the end result, tell me about the end results of your study, which you're hoping to accomplish again.
I'm sorry.
The end results.
Tell me about the end results which you're hoping to accomplish in your study.
Well, we would want these 34 students to be feeling
Academic
strong
Magnet
and
High School
confident about
graduates.
Academic Magnet High School or another, the highest level of academic achievement for them at another high school. And we would want to see that working with young people in these small cohorts would establish an ongoing, sustainable pattern of support services that can continue to generate cohorts of students coming to Academic Magnet High School or preparing for the highest level at their own school.
So not necessarily working toward diversity, but just more academic achievement and opportunity.
Yes, we really want them. We want them to know about these opportunities, the opportunity at Academic Magnet High School, because we're finding that many students do not know about it, particularly the children of lower income communities. And then to be able to say to them, this is where you're starting. You've got really good potential. We're going to strengthen that potential and confidence and get you ready for the next step.
Thank you.
Is the program a year long or 2 years, the program for a student? It's 1 year working with the student or 2 years working with the student?
Depends on whether they're 7th or 8th graders.
Okay, so if they're 7th graders,
It's 2 years.
it's a 2-year program?
2 years.
So here are my thoughts, when some people might not like it, but to me now, if a student goes through that program for a year, trying to prepare for interest into that school, they should earn some type of credit for the time they spent learning and studying and preparing, instead of just being tossed in the hat with everybody else. As I said, if they score 13, they score 14, I'm thinking that maybe they should have maybe a half-point credit or a point credit or some kind of credit for the preparation to get into that school. Otherwise they come out, they have the knowledge, but they still don't have any secure placement.
And they would be encouraged to apply, and we would guide them through that process. Steps in awarding recognition for participation in this program have not yet been decided.
Yeah, I understand, yeah, because I think if a student, if the end results increase enrollment or increase diversity at that school, then so those kids have to have something of weight that's going to help them get into that school if they go through your program and prove they can do the work, they can compete on a high level. To me, it would be fair.
Chris.
I think Michael's good. Ms. Peterson, this is a 2-year grant, as I understand it, 7th and 8th graders, and then will the district, once you've figured out what to do with it, will we continue that with others? I mean, because we know, we've all talked about our need to increase diversity in our magnet schools, so.
What the goal would be, and I think this is the foundation's goal too, is that the success, the potential has been realized, that the district values that success and that potential, and that we can put our heads together as district personnel and figure out how we can continue it.
Okay.
That's kind of along the lines of my question. Has the district identified whether or not, or what success of this grant looks like? Have we been able to identify what success looks like in this grant? I know we're just getting started.
But I think success would look like students graduating from Academic Magnet High School who were identified today.
Well, I was thinking that too, Cindy, but then Judith said that not necessarily attending Academic Magnet. She also said maybe attending their traditional home high school, but taking advanced or rigorous courses. So my question again is, have we identified exactly what this grant looks like from a successful standpoint?
I think success would be measured in a variety of ways, but one, in terms of one empirical one, would be meeting the expectations for admission into Academic Magnet High School.
Okay. So that would be one of ours, not necessarily the grants, but that would be one of our successes, correct?
Yes. And the grant is directed at Academic Magnet High School. So meeting and when I extended it, I didn't want to be parochial in terms of Academic Magnet High School. But we would want the students to apply, we would want them to be qualified to be accepted, and then the choice would then be theirs. And by being accepted or meeting the admissions requirements, then they do have a choice that they can make. And they're making it based on some personal and academic successes.
Then I think you answered my second question, which was the vein in which this grant was written. I'm assuming you probably were the principal at the time the grant was written.
I was on the team writing it this year.
Okay, so was the grant then written with the end game in mind that these 34 students from high ability and Title I students who identified as gifted and talented from 13 middle schools would be able to, at some point, enroll at Academic Magnet?
Qualify
for enrollment at Academic Magnet?
Yes. And in fact, Academic Magnet High School was invited by the Jack Kent Cook Foundation to apply for this grant.
Okay. I have some other questions about the grant, but I don't know if you guys, the person who I think would represent the grant, let me ask you this. The level of involvement that you spoke about the peer mentoring and exposure, what does that look like? Will that be something that these students will do on their middle school campus? Is that outside of school? Is that on the weekends? What does that look like?
I don't think we have a firm understanding of exactly what it would look like, but there will be peer mentoring at Academic Magnet High School with Academic Magnet High School students and these 34 students as they come for different events on the campus. We can also continue electronic communication because that's also a really strong way that young people communicate with one another and fuse that relationship. The adult mentoring will be probably an adult with several students and their families to work through the admissions process.
Okay. Who's the point person from the district that's kind of overseeing the implementation of the grant?
Ms. Pinckney and myself.
Ms. Pinckney and yourself. And I want to echo what Cindy said earlier about potentially cross-referencing the top two middle school students with the students who were selected in this program. I think it'd be good to know whether or not there is a cross-section, and if there isn't, there may be room for more. But I think that would be good information, and I like to participate in some level, whether or not just sitting in or parts of the conversation as a grant starts to
And help us
to
with
grow.
mentoring.
I could do that too.
That's a good idea.
I don't know if you want me, but I'm just saying. But yeah, I got you.
I think Michael makes a good point, because it seems like one of the issues may be that some of our low-income students don't see people who resemble them at the Academic Magnet High School, and it would be nice to show our community that everyone is accepted and invited to participate and apply to the Academic Magnet High School. So if there's a way that we can emphasize that fact, and I'm sure you're already thinking that 5 steps down the road, because I do worry that maybe we've gotten to a point where people don't see people who look like them, and that's a disincentive to apply.
I also want to say one more thing, not necessarily about the grant, but there was a conversation, Jarita, we had when we went to lunch with some folks before, and they talked about the ability of students being able to take advanced courses, and just being exposed to those courses sometimes triggers something within them to want to take those courses.
That's how they gain their interest.
Right, that they may have not have taken before. So what I would also like to see as a second layer of this 2-year grant is maybe the district do something that mirrors this, but kind of homegrown it in a way, not like the top 2, but in the same kind of peer mentoring initiative. Maybe the district could create something like that. And maybe also identify some other students, maybe beyond the 34 that were identified in this grant, but maybe some other students that could use some potential investing in, so that they themselves may see themselves taking either advanced classes either at their own middle school or high school, or even at Academic Magnet at some point.
Give us a year.
Gotcha.
Iron some of these things out. But
My phone number is 843-991-1960.
to answer Mr. Staub's question, we have begun to cast a net to graduates and to parents who will help us represent some of the way Magnet looked 10 years ago. And those people have responded very positively back. They're excited. I think we're going to have something that we can all be proud of.
I have a couple people too. I don't know if that committee is already, I don't know if that committee is already filled, but there's a gentleman who was the principal at Burke High School when Academic Magnet first became a program on the campus. And he's expressed to me his willingness to support the district in that. And I think I also know, I think she's my best friend actually. She was the first, I think, valedictorian Academic Magnet in '92, I believe. And so she may also be willing to lend some support in in this endeavor as well. So
Who knows, they may grow up to be our next director of communications.
Never know.
Much like our last Academic Magnet graduate that did that.
yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments?
So I'd mention one other thing about the Jack Kent Cook Foundation. So they will also, we have written into 2 of our federal grants, Title I and Title IV. Jack Kent Cook Foundation supports equal to opportunity schools, which is a national strategy initiative to, again, increase access to more rigorous coursework for students. So that's a second way that we've engaged with this foundation. I should back up and say that Academic Magnet is one of only 4 schools in the country that was awarded a grant from that foundation this year. So it's really prestigious work that's going on. So the other big celebration happened this weekend. So we've come and talked to you in the past about new tech at Burke High School. And Robin was able to be there this weekend. Their national conference is called NTAC. And it was in St. Louis this weekend, over 3,500 participants from all over the country. And the great news is?
I was excited to be there. I can tell you, representing Charleston County Schools. A cohort from Burke High School, a cohort from Simmons Pinckney attended, and 2 or 3 district staff members who worked with them specifically. And we were thrilled to be there, not only to learn more about the New Tech Network, which I've had some exposure with, but I've got to dig really into the planning pieces of how they work with new schools every year. We, Charleston County Schools, were thrilled to be there with 2 students and 2 staff members who were selected as the best in network for 2018. Not only was it the first time they've had a first-year school win best in network, but I have a video if you'd like to see it. I've already shared it with many people. But the facilitator and the president of New Tech Network, or at the NTech conference, was thrilled to say that we also had never had a teacher so dedicated, and that's Amelia Navarette Little, who left her honeymoon in Hawaii to attend the conference to be part of the presentation. And Lee Chopper Johnson, I believe that's his name, and Amelia Little, and 2 students, I won't mess their names up, presented in front of these 3,500 people beautifully and represented Charleston County in their project called Finding a Voice, which was a collaboration with the Charleston County Public Library, and it was infused with videos from the library staff talking about how they work with the students and the students themselves presented stuff beautifully, and how they found this project. This is their second project, and of all the projects that were presented, that were submitted, Charleston County came out on top. I'll be glad to share that. I did send it to Dr. Postway, who responded to me pretty quickly. We can tell you how thrilling it was, and how those students felt, because their parents were there as well, to be able to represent. And they were so poised and polished, you would not believe how comfortable they were presenting to so many people, and from schools around the country. And then they had their own session afterwards, mini sessions. They had their own session afterwards where they were the panel, and they had many schools come in and talk about how they came to that project and how the teachers came to guide, to kind of facilitate the students. And it was about storyboarding for disenfranchised countries, and how they put the standards of social studies and English to work in this project. You would have been so proud, but when you see the video, you still will feel that way.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I think I didn't initially understand what this is. I understand the new tech inside the schools and what the students do, but you're telling me it wasn't Burke's execution of the new tech program that won, it was a student-driven project.
That is the execution.
That dream, so of all the schools that use new tech in the United States, these students and their project was deemed by this entity to be the best.
Yep.
The best in network new project, because of many schools, New Tech is a collaboration of schools. It is a network of schools who use project-based learning to teach our disciplines in a cross-curricular kind of way, and where they can get passionate about something. So there are all kinds of projects, but they have a bank of projects that as you're starting in your new school, you might go to the bank of projects and go and practice and kind of practice. So this was an original project, and they presented it to all the students in the cohort, the 10th grade.
That was going to be my next question. So all the students in Burke in the
These
new tech
students were selected by the teachers and by their peers to be the representatives to present.
But it was the whole school's project.
Right,
10th grade.
and the project was presented in a series of video clips and in a slide deck that was infused with people speaking, and particularly those from the library who talk about how they collaborate, because really about New Tech is about collaboration with your community and with the experts out there, and them understanding that the world is greater than just their classroom, and that they have those resources available to them.
So this is really the Burke students that
Teachers just facilitated.
excelled to this degree. That's
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah, the work that was presented was student work.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was outstanding.
We'll send you the link to the video, and it's particularly heartwarming to see thousands of people giving these kids a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And I clipped it because I was afraid I was literally using an iPad to videotape it. There is a professional production video that's coming, But I clipped it at the end thinking I was gonna run out of memory, before they actually received their awards. And then I have a second video where there was from the audience, a question and answer to the students and the teachers. So that went on for another 20 minutes.
That would be the fun part to see
Yeah.
as well.
I have it, but I couldn't download it anymore. I've used up all my memory. From T-Mobile this month, right?
That's great, congratulations.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
awesome.
Well, Charles Swinton has said they're coming back today, and students and their parents were there for just the day before, and then they left the next day. The team of teachers that were there, I said most of them are back because I came with that small group, and I think the principal and a few key people were returning today.
So just curiosity, give us a rough idea of the number of students involved in this project.
I'd say maybe 25, 30, according to the code. Because, with New Tech, they combine classes. It might be social studies and English. And so it might have been 40, when I'm thinking about it, together.
And how many of those groups were inside Burke last year? Was every student somehow involved in a cohort with New Tech?
Yes, in the 10th.
So every 10th grader?
I think it was 10th grade, yeah. Because they worked on this, 10th and 11th. It's really who was in the course, the classes, I should say that, because the two students are presented, I think one was the 10th and one was the 11th, and I might have that wrong. So it's really not a grade level thing, but we did start this year. There's a study last year, they started this year. Simmons Pinckney is studying this year, and they'll be launching this coming school year, or a few weeks.
Anything further? Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
All right, so is there anything further for SEC? Nope. Seeing none.